Hey guys, in this video we're going to look at an image and talk about why I lit it a certain way and how I lit it that way. So I'm Daniel Norton, photographer here in New York. I make videos like this. I make them about philosophy and gear and technique. Sometimes we do live demos. If that kind of stuff interests you, go ahead and subscribe. This is going to be something a little different. I get a lot of questions about gear, as is probably expected, right? If you're learning photography or growing in photography, you're always curious as to how you do different things. Especially lighting. I feel like everybody's out there kind of saying, this is the lens you need, and this is just such a common thing. There's probably a million videos about that, but there's less that really go into, especially the more intricate and cool, in my opinion, lighting. So because I get a lot of questions about images I've put out there, and because I get a lot of questions about light in general, what I'm going to do here is this is going to be a little series. I'll make a couple of these this week. Don't worry, it's not replacing the philosophy videos, but if you guys like these, then we'll do more, or I'll do them here and there. Another thing I'm going to do is, I don't know if you follow me on Instagram or not, but I've not been posting a lot on Instagram. I kind of wanted to figure out what to do with Instagram. It's weird, At first I thought, back in the day, Instagram was kind of like your portfolio, but I feel like it's so saturated with things that I don't know. I mean, I wasn't really hip on just posting there all the time. But I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start to post these images we're going to talk about. I'll post a bunch of images and then I'll make videos like this about them. So it kind of ties in. Because me just putting a random image up for people to say, hey, I like that image. I mean, that's cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like when people like my images. But at the same time, I really want it to be a little bit more educational to go along with the rest of what I do, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. That's a little prologue. I probably won't do this every time, but just so you understand where we're at from people that watch regularly. I know you guys are used to kind of usually a philosophy video on Mondays, but we're going to talk a little about lighting. So let's take a look at the image. So this is an image of she's an actress, Jessica. Shot this several years ago, so this is a fairly old image. We were at the time testing I can't remember if it was the first one or the replacement to it, but the Leica M240, right? I was asked, Leica gave me the camera, and they were like, "Can you shoot, with this camera?" And the idea was that if people are in New York, you might remember this. I basically shot about 90% of it. Then I gave the camera to a few other people who wanted to try it, and they created some really cool images. So I was like, we have to include you too. And we basically did a kind of a mini gallery show. We turned Adorama into a gallery for a night. We hung pictures all over the store. People came in. There was, I think there was wine and stuff. It's pretty cool. Anyways, we basically, I needed to create some images with the Leica. But my whole thing is that I shoot with the rangefinder. I love a Leica, but I shoot portraits with it, and I didn't want to just go out and shoot just street photography. I did do some street photography because, of course, they kind of asked me to do that because it's a big thing for Leica. But I want to shoot some portraits, and I want to shoot some cool portraits and interesting portraits, and not just like, I'm walking around the street and shooting somebody at their... Not that if you're just shooting on the street and natural light, it's bad. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, I wanted the portraits to have some flavor, something that you wouldn't think of when you think of Leica. That was kind of my idea. So for this, I busted out my dado lights. All right, so I'm going to go through and... Well, first I'm going to talk about the light itself, and then we'll talk about... I guess you can't actually see my mouse, so I'll just kind of describe. So you can see, just looking at this, that what the feeling I wanted to create was that there was light in a space and that it was very natural. I had these kind of wood panels that I leaned against the wall. So basically, this is just in my studio. And I wanted this kind of hard, moody light, like it was coming from maybe a window or some kind of source. Maybe a crack of a door was open, so it was kind of shaped and put in there. And I wanted it to feel kind of, have some depth to it. And I didn't want it to go completely dark on the other side of her, but I wanted it to be dark. So I'm actually using two lights here. One is a small softbox, which we'll talk about in a second, and the other one is just a regular kind of dado light bare head, which I'm going to show all this gear in a second. And the softbox is basically the main light, clearly. It's giving her light on her face. It's brightening up her eyes. It's giving her light on her body. We did some further away shots too, but I would have to make this... you can see through her shirt, basically. So I didn't want to put those on here because, it wouldn't have been... appropriate for all ages. So, it lights basically a chunk of her body. It gives some detail to the hair. And then the other light is really there for two reasons. One is to give some light on the other side of her. And the other one is to brighten up her eye that's on the shadow side. So that's not so much light. I mean, there is some light from the softbox creeping on that side, but the eye has a little bit of a smack of light as well with a secondary light source. So I'm going to go here. So I started using this site a while back, and then I kind of drifted away from it because I don't know. But I'm back because I think it's a pretty cool site. It's called Kit. It's kit.co. I guess I stopped using it when they had some kind of weird like lawsuit because they were kit.com or something, and then somebody actually owned it. I don't know exactly what happened. So, anyways, it's kit.co. I'll put a link. It is like an affiliate thing, so if you look at these lights and you buy it from there, then I can get more coffee. But whatever. Either way, I'm listing all the equipment here, and also it's a way for me to show it. So I'm using, like I said, two light sources here. There's one of each. I'm using a, I don't know if you can see my mouse if I go over here. Can you see my mouse? Nope, can't. Okay. I'm using a Datalight SM24-300U, which is basically a focusable small light. I've used them a bunch of times. I don't use them much in videos because it's hard to use a hot light in a video, because we're using hot lights to record the video. This is, if you've used kind of like hot lights that have lenses, like Fresnel lights, you have a general idea of what this does. It's basically a light that you can focus and a light that you can shape, and that's pretty smooth. But the thing about the dado light is it uses spherical lenses. So it's rare that you're going to want to hit somebody smack dab in the face with like a regular hard light, like an open face light or something, because it's just not going to look good. It's going to be very kind of unflattering. And part of that has to do with that it's uneven. Most reflectors don't create very even light. In the Fresnel helps, it helps kind of keep it, it's not perfectly even, but it keeps it like kind of smooth, the transition. The data light is basically even. It's basically a lens. It's a spherical lens like you might have in a camera lens. So when you shoot the data light on the wall, for instance, you get a nice, clean, perfect circle that's even. And this is one reason why it's nice on the skin, although I'm not using it as the main light. The second light, the other light I'm using, is the, you see it to the left there. This is the kit that I have listed there. I actually don't have the kit. The kit has a bag and it has a stand, I guess. I just have the Baby Soft and the softbox itself. It's like a foot. It's a very small softbox. But the thing about the Baby Soft is that, a lot of times, like if you take, again, like a Fresnel head and you stick it in a light softbox, it's like blasting at the front. It's almost like using a speed light, and the fact that you have to like crack through levels of diffusion to make it kind of spread out. The Baby Soft has like it's designed so that the light source sits kind of in the center and the light radiates around it, kind of like a bare bulb type feel if you use the strobes. And what that does is it actually makes the softbox very even. So even though it's not like any more soft, obviously, because it's not bigger, it is more even, which again creates a very smooth look. Now, what I did here, though, and this is the money here, right? I think I scroll up to it. I'm using, actually, instead of using, this is a pretty common thing that I do, and I don't think I've ever done it in the video. Instead of using the diffusion on the front of the softbox, I've removed it, and I took a piece of tough spun, which is basically a type of diffusion that you'd use for a light, photo lights, but it almost looks like a dryer sheet. I've seen people use dryer sheets. You probably could get away with that if the light's not too hot. Otherwise, they will burn. Tough spun will not burn, so buy the proper tough spun if you can. So the tough spun basically, it creates, because the light is not like hitting this like flat diffusion that you're used to seeing in a softbox, just kind of going through. It actually creates kind of, I don't want to say it's uneven, but it just definitely has an organic feel to it. And depending on where you put the tough spun relative to your light source, you can actually even get texture from it. So it's a very, very nice type of diffusion to use when you want to create this effect of light that's smooth but still feels a little bit natural. And what I did here was, the box is very small. Instead of just putting it flat on the front of the box, I've actually used clothespins and I've draped it down almost like a balloon in the front, almost like a lantern, if you ever see me use a lantern. This lets the light scatter around more, and that's one reason why if you look to the side, to what would be her left, you can see that the wall is pretty well lit and stuff, even though the box has a lot of direction, because it's like this spill, right? And again, that helps it feel more natural. It gives that side of the image some lightness, because the other side of the image, of course, has weight because of the shadows, right? And what it wraps around her eye a little bit. It creates this kind of soft light that's it's not super soft, but it's like soft and kind of, it's softer than it would be because it's going into like this balloon. But the other thing I did here, because with just that, you get a little bit of light in her eye on the other side, but not much. But the other side of actually, let me see if I can. I'm going to get rid of this because you don't really need to see this. Any more? There we go. You can see the other side of her. There is a there's like almost like a line of light coming across. So now I'm going to mention it. You'll probably really notice it. See how even that line of light is? That's the other light. I've got the barn doors pinched down like this, right? And what's happening is this like strip of light is actually coming across, just barely hitting this one eye over here, giving that a little bit of extra light inside, right? And then it's going across the wall and lighting the wall to create this kind of visual movement across the, because you come in and you're just like, and you follow across where she's looking, right? You can see where her eyes are going. It kind of brings it all across. It serves to add an extra catch light, which is nice if you need it. It fills in a tiny bit, and it makes it so that image is not so heavy on the other side. It's just that little bit, right? Could I have done it with just the one light? Yeah. And actually, if I only had the one light and I wanted to have light on the other side of her, I could have done that as well. It just would have meant I would have to bring the softbox out more in front of her, which then would have changed the pattern of light on her face. The goal with lighting, in my mind, is to create kind of what's in your mind. You may end up having to compromise it sometimes, but you want to minimize that compromise. So this is when you start adding extra lights. We always start with the one light that creates which they call the key light, that creates the key, right? It creates that image, it creates that mood, that feeling, the main vibe that you're going for. And then your secondary light sources are all about support, right? So whether you're using a separation light / hair light, whether you're using, here where I'm kind of putting it on the wall, or a little bit of fill, those lights are all there to work with your key light to help keep that mood. If you've got a key light that creates all kinds of shape and then your fill light destroys that shape, then that's not a good fill light, right? Your fill light should just come in and just kind of tweak it. So anyways, yeah, guys, let me know what you think. I mean, I know that people probably, the average person watching this is probably not using data lights. They are, a premium product. Don't get me wrong. I get it. And you're going to ask 1,000 questions. Can you do this with blah, blah? Yeah, I mean, if I didn't have the dados, my next step down would be something like an Airy light. And those, or a Mole Richardson, those Fresnel lights that you can get them dirt cheap used, and these things last forever. So if you can't get a dado light, I mean, it's not gonna be the same. But you want to experiment with this kind of stuff, then something like a Fresnel from Airy or from Mole Richardson, probably a 300. These lights are both 150s, but dado lights are very, very efficient. So they tend to put out almost double the amount of light, roughly. I mean, you can go on websites and look at the charts and stuff. So they only actually burn 150 watts, which means they're not as hot, and of course draw less electricity. But they actually put out a lot of output. They have a lot of output. They put out a lot of output. That's kind of a strange way to say that. There's a lot of light that comes out of them, so they're very efficient for what they are. And again, what's not going to really work that well for this is something like, let's say, a Home Depot, pan light that you just stick a light bulb in, because you won't be able to get that good shape to the light, at least not very easily. So, and of course you could use a flash. I find that barn doors on flashes don't always work as well as I'd like them to. So if I was going to do this with a flash, I would do a small softbox. You could do the same thing to it with the tough spun. But what I would do is I would make a cookie, or just shoot a bare head flash towards the wall and take a couple people's pieces of foam board and kind of block it so you get that slash. Because you're not going to it's hard to get a good slash with the barn doors on flash. I don't know why, they just don't ever really, I've never had a lot of luck with them. Except the Fresnel attachment that goes on Pro Photos, but then if you're buying that, you could buy a data light. Because that's like $10,000 or whatever, crazy amount. That thing is amazing. But anyways, I digress. Whew. Well, guys, let me know what you think. Is this something you want to see more of? I'm going to do a couple of them anyways. If you've seen other images, like I'm going to start posting stuff on Instagram. If you see something there that you want me to talk about, go ahead and comment on that. If you go back through my backlog on Instagram and you see something there you want me to talk about, go ahead and comment on that, and I will do so. Some of that stuff may even have videos associated where I can point you to them. In this case, no video, unfortunately. It would not have been appropriate. So, yeah, guys, go ahead if you haven't already and subscribe, and I will see you next time.